Throughout history, America has been celebrated as the land of freedom, opportunity, and democracy. But behind this shining image lies a darker, forgotten side. Stories of exploitation. The story begins with the foundation itself. When the Declaration of Independence proclaimed that
indigenous nations who had lived on this land for thousands of years were violently displaced through wars.
The Trail of Tears in the 1830s is one of the darkest examples, where thousands of Cherokee
entire cultures were uprooted, families torn apart, and ancestral lands lost forever.
The transatlantic slave trade brought millions of Africans in chains, stripped of dignity, freedom, and humanity.
Thousands would not survive the brutal Middle Passage, dying from starvation, disease, and unbearable conditions.
Those who survived were condemned to lives of forced labor, their bodies exploited to build the wealth of a growing nation.
Day after day, countless people worked long hours in the fields, their hardship fueling an economy that rarely acknowledged their humanity.
While some lived in comfort and prosperity, the foundations of this wealth were tied to the relentless labor of others. Generations labored under exhausting conditions, their efforts sustaining industries that shaped the nation's growth. The wealth generated did not remain local. It fueled industries and trade networks that stretched across the world.
In factories and mills, industries expanded rapidly, powered by raw materials supplied through tireless labor in the fields.
As cities grew, prosperity became more visible, yet the struggles of those who sustained it remained largely unseen.
Even the youngest were not spared from labor, as families relied on every hand to survive the demands of the time. Factories grew louder and larger, becoming symbols of progress, but also of the relentless demands placed on those who worked inside. Beneath the ground, countless workers toiled in dangerous mines, facing risks that often went unseen by the world above. For many, survival depended on long hours in these hazardous places, where the promise of wages often outweighed the cost of safety. Railroads expanded across the nation, bringing growth and opportunity, but also demanding relentless labor from those who kept them moving. Much of this progress relied on immigrant labor, with countless hands building the foundations of a modern America. Across the farmlands, laborers worked long days under the sun, fueling the nation's growing appetite for food and resources. In growing cities, the streets filled with workers, families, and endless movement, symbols of progress built on countless struggles. Behind the city's progress lay overcrowded housing, where families lived in small spaces with little comfort or relief.
Long hours of labor left workers drained, yet survival meant returning the next day to the same endless cycle.
Immigrant communities carried the weight of labor, living in crowded spaces while holding on to dreams of a better future.
Despite the hardships, workers began to organize, their voices rising together in the demand for dignity and fair treatment. As their movement grew, the collective voice of the people began to resonate across the nation, inspiring change.
Leaders emerged within communities, guiding discussions and encouraging collective action toward fairness and opportunity for all.
Across cities and towns, communities began to unite, fostering a spirit of cooperation and shared purpose.
Knowledge and awareness spread as educators and leaders guided the next generation, empowering them to understand and advocate for fairness.
Communities strengthened their bonds through cooperation, creating spaces where every voice could be heard and respected.
Through small acts of collaboration, communities nurtured growth and demonstrated the power of working together toward common goals.
Communities convened to share ideas, listen, and collaborate, building bridges between generations and fostering understanding.
As the day ends, the enduring spirit of unity and cooperation reminds us that progress